For thousands of years, one thing has remained true: gold doesn't lie. Empires have risen and fallen, currencies have come and gone, and leaders have made every promise imaginable. But gold just waits quietly and patiently for the truth to surface. Today, as gold breaks record after record, many people are asking the same question: why now? The answer isn't just in economics, it's in human nature. Because the story of gold isn't about a metal, it's about trust, and what happens every time that trust is broken. Not all thefts happen in the dark. Some happen in daylight, in government buildings, with smiles and signatures. The thieves wear suits, not masks. They don't rob with guns, and they rob with policy. When a government prints money it doesn't have, it quietly takes value from every citizen who saves, works, and earns in that same currency. The price of food goes up, rent goes up, and yet paychecks stay the same. That invisible gap between what things cost and what you earn, that's the theft. And it's been happening for centuries. Back in ancient Rome, emperors began shaving the silver out of their coins to pay off debts. It worked for a while, but after a couple of centuries, the denarius, once pure silver, became worthless. Centuries later, France made the same mistake. In the 1780s, the French replaced gold money with cheaper copper coins. Within years, inflation exploded and the nation erupted in revolution. Even the Confederate States of America tried to print their way out of trouble during the Civil War. By the end, their currency was so worthless that even soldiers couldn't be fed. Letters from General Robert E. Lee show he was more desperate for gold than for cannons. Every time a nation replaces honest money with fake promises, the story ends the same: collapse. Some people say that could never happen to the US dollar. But history doesn't repeat itself perfectly, it rhymes. America's national debt is at record levels. The money supply has expanded by nearly 40% since 2020. And while leaders insist inflation is under control, ordinary people feel poorer every year. That's no accident. Economists have known this pattern for centuries. It's called the Cantillon effect. The rich get the new money first through banks, bailouts, and rising stock prices. The rest of the population gets what's left: higher prices, weaker savings, and shrinking power. It's not a bug in the system, it is the system. Around the world, other nations are taking notice. Central banks, the very institutions that once swore by the US dollar, are now hoarding gold. Since 2014, they've been quietly buying more gold and selling US treasuries. By 2025, they held more gold than treasuries for the first time in almost 30 years. The BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, are openly building trade systems that bypass the dollar. Even global oil sales are shifting away from the petrodollar. It's not just politics, it's survival. The world is waking up to what the US has been doing, and gold is becoming the great equalizer once again. This isn't the first time America has done this dance. In 1933, President Franklin D. Roosevelt confiscated gold at $20 an ounce and then repriced it to $35 overnight. The dollar lost 70% of its value instantly. Then in 1971, President Richard Nixon ended the gold standard completely. From that moment on, the dollar was backed by nothing. And since then, it has lost more than 90% of its purchasing power. Each time gold didn't rise, paper money simply fell. Gold doesn't care about politics, banks, or promises. It has one job: to reveal the truth about paper money. When governments lie, when debt explodes, when inflation eats away at the middle class, gold simply reflects that decay. That's why it's hitting new highs. Not because of speculation or hype, but because people and entire nations are losing faith in fiat currency. Gold is the world's oldest form of honesty. It doesn't default, it doesn't vanish, and it doesn't depend on a central bank to exist. And that's why it's rising again. Because when trust in paper fades, truth always shines through. This story is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not financial advice. Always do your own research before making investment decisions.